Alright, 12.3. Students will be able to find lateral and surface area of prisms. Okay. I'm just going to fill in a bunch of this stuff here. So we have base, or bases. Those are the congruent faces in parallel planes. So here's your bases. But just a little hint. Usually the lateral faces, which we'll talk about what those are going to be rectangles. And the polygons that are not rectangles are probably your base. However, it is possible to have rectangles as your base as well. But just so you can see, if you got like a hexagon on top and a hexagon on bottom, you got your base. Alright, the next thing, the term I just used, the lateral face. These are the rectangular faces that are not bases. So, all these guys right here, right in the back, those are all lateral faces. And then where those lateral faces intersect, we call those lateral edges. So, all those little segments where they come together, those are lateral edges. Okay. What we have here is a right prism, and the reason it's a right prism is because every side is perpendicular to the base. And so, we call that a right prism. This is a prism with lateral edges that are also altitudes. Notice the altitude here is going to be congruent to this lateral edge. So, it's kind of hard to tell without an example. I should have put an example in here of a oblique prism, but an oblique one is not going to have the lateral edges be perpendicular to the base. And the lateral edges are going to be kind of at an angle. It's going to be kind of tilted. And the altitude is going to go straight up and down. That's still going to remain perpendicular to the base. If you want an idea for oblique, you can look in your book in this section. I believe there's a picture of it. And also on the very next lesson, in the 12.4 lesson, they show a picture of an oblique cylinder and a right cylinder. And you can kind of tell what I mean by oblique. But it's basically, it's this same kind of shape, except for it's just a little twisted. In that these two bases are parallel, but they're kind of off-centered. And so the edges kind of go at an angle. Alright, the last thing that we need to know here is what lateral area is, and that's usually represented by the letter L. Also, the area of bases is represented by a capital B. I forgot to mention that. Lateral area, this is the sum of all the areas of the lateral faces. Okay, so let's say you got this hexagonal prism. You unfold it, you're going to have these two hexagons on top and bottom, and you're going to have all the lateral edges here. Well, these lateral edges, when you unfold them and put them side to side, you get a rectangle. In fact, let's zoom in on this rectangle, leaving that picture up here for us to look at what it would look like up here. This distance here is, look, it's a lateral edge, and it's also the height. So I'm going to put a little h here. But what is this distance here? Well, this distance along here should line up perfectly with all the edges of this hexagon. That means that this distance here is actually equal to the perimeter of that base. So we would say perimeter is this distance here, because it's the perimeter of that base. Well, if you look, all the lateral edges when lined up make a rectangle, with a base being the perimeter of the capital B base hexagon, and the h being the height. So we could just take the perimeter times the height. That's actually going to give us the area, the lateral area, in fact. And so that's where we get this formula, that lateral area equals perimeter times height. And that's it. So I told everybody in class to see if they could find the lateral area of this guy. You just have to know what the base is. Well, the base are these two pentagons. So find the perimeter, then find the height, multiply them together. You can go ahead and do that on your own if you want. Otherwise, I'm going to just go ahead and work it out here with you. Remember that the lateral area equals the perimeter times height. Well, the perimeter is going to equal the side, 14, times the number of sides, which in this case is 5. So 14 times 5 is 70. And our height is this guy. That's our height. It's 8. Because if we were to turn this thing on its side, or with the base on the bottom, it would have a height of 8. It would be going up and down 8. So now we plug this all in. Lateral area equals 70 times the height of 8. Well, 70 times 8 is 560. and it's 560 centimeters squared. Boom. And we just found the lateral area. It's really not that tough. Alright, what if we didn't want just the lateral area? What if we actually wanted the surface area, meaning the area of all the sides, including the bases? Well, that would be the lateral area plus the top base and the bottom base. And those two areas should be equal, so the total surface area, we use a T for surface area, will equal the lateral area plus 2 times the area of the base, because there's 2 of them. T equals L plus 2B. Alright, well, let's go on to the next page here. And we see we have a question asking for the surface area. So I'm going to write on top here, I'm going to write T equals L plus 2B. Because I know that if I can find the area of the base and the lateral area, I should be able to add it together. Well, double the base area, add it with the lateral area, and I'll have the whole surface area. So let's do the lateral area first. Well, remember, I'm going to do the lateral in red, and we'll do the bases in blue. Remember that the lateral area is going to equal the perimeter times the height. Well, what is the perimeter of this guy? I got 9, I got 8. I do not have the hypotenuse here. So I need to figure out what that side is to find the perimeter of this base, which is a triangle. That's not that hard though, because it's a right triangle, so I have a 9 and I have an 8. So if I wanted to, I could label this guy as C, and I could say that this is like an a squared plus b squared will equal c squared problem, or Pythagorean theorem problem. So let's just do that up here in the corner. I got a 9 squared plus an 8 squared, that should equal c squared. 9 squared is 81, 64, 81 plus 64 equals 145. So if 145 equals c squared, then that means that c equals the square root of 145, which is approximately 12.04. And now I can find the perimeter, because I'm just going to do 12.04 plus 8 plus 9. 12.04 plus 8 is 20.04, plus 9 is 29.04. So I got the perimeter is 29.04. The height is just this guy right here, the height, 5. So let's plug that into my formula. Lateral area equals 29.04 times 5. Alright, well, let's see. What is that when we plug that into our calculator? We should get, and I'm just doing this in my head, 145.2. And then, so that's the lateral area. Now we just need the area of the bases. Well, one base is just going to be the area of a triangle, which is 1/2 lowercase b for base times height. So we just need the base and the height of this triangle. What do you know? That's 9 and 8. And we could switch it. We could call this the base and this the height. It doesn't really matter, just as long as those two parts are perpendicular to each other. So the base equals 1/2 9 times 8. Well, 9 times 8 is 72, and half of 72 is 36. So we got that one base is 36. That means that 2 bases is 72. So I simply need to add these two things together, 145 plus 72, and I'll have my total surface area. So 145 plus 72, let's see, that's going to make 217.2, and we would just say units squared, because we don't know what units this is in, and that's how you'd find that one. All right, for this last one, I'll put the answer up there in a little bit, but I think that you guys can do this one. But there's just one little trick to it. It says that Weston wants to have an ottoman reupholstered. Find the surface area that will be reupholstered. Well, here's the trick. Remember, before we said that surface area is lateral plus 2 bases. Well, in this problem, we're not going to need to reupholster the bottom. So the total surface area is just going to equal lateral area plus 1 base, because we're only reupholstering this top. So if you think you could do this, go ahead, try it on your own. I think you can. And I'll put the answer up there in just a second. Okay, well, lateral area plus base. So my lateral area is going to be perimeter times height, and my base is just going to be length times width, because it's a rectangle on top. So let's see, my perimeter is 2.5 plus 3, that's 5.5, plus another 2.5, that's 8, plus another 3, that's 11. So I got 11 times a height of 1.5. Now, the length and the width of my base is just 2.5 times 3. 11 times 1.5 is 16.5, and 2.5 times 3 is 7.5. Add those two together and you get 24 feet squared is the total surface area. There you go. See you guys on video for 12.4.